A little introduction from me. My name is Jeremy Howard. I have been in air traffic for almost 12 years now. If you recognize the lovely nasal tone of me, you might have heard me on low over at Approach. I started out at St. Louis Airport in 2010. Worked there until end of 2012, started over at Lambert. Worked at Lambert for 3.5 years, and then I've been over at St. Louis Approach since the middle of 2016. So every single bit of our approach control can be sectorized. We can have two different arrival frequencies. We can have two different feeder frequencies for a north and a south side for arrivals into St. Louis, because that was what was expected to be needed. We have two different departure sectors, and then we have low altitude. You have west, east, north, Scott Air Force Base, and maybe 4 of those. So at any given time, if we're working combined positions on the midnight shift, we're working anywhere from 14 to 24 different frequencies at any given time. This is one wall of the radar scopes that we have and how we actually hang out at our positions. This one you can obviously see there's nobody there. This was on the mid shift on the departure wall, or what used to be all departure wall. This is the wall that we do most of our stuff from. I'm trying to remember if this will work on here. Yeah, okay. It doesn't work if you have this on the TV screen. You can't see the laser dot. But right in here, if you ever talk to St. Louis Departure, this is who you're talking to. I say departure because departure is a big name that we use. If you have taken off of somewhere, you're talking to departure. If you're going into somewhere, you're talking to approach, even though it's the same person a lot of times. Next to them is the low altitude person. We don't identify ourselves as low, except to the other facilities that we're talking to, but to the pilot, we're just still St. Louis Approach. To the right of them, these are our two main arrival sites. So if you are talking to St. Louis Approach to go into Lambert, those are the places that you're talking to. We all sit right next to each other, so anything that you're doing that's dumb, we will talk to the person right next to us about, and we point it out to that person as well. For a general map overview, this is what our actual radar screen is looking at. We are 40 miles from the middle of Lambert in all directions, basically from the middle of the Cardinal, formerly known as VOR DME, all the way out to the northeast. Litchfield sits on our northeast corner. We share that with Springfield, Illinois, and with Kansas City Center, east sector for us. They call themselves Gateway. The southeast side, we can see to Sparta is about the extent of our airspace, and that's actually on an extension of where we're actually given our designated airspace. Southwest side, we don't quite get down to Vichy or Rolla, whichever one you want to call it. On the west, once you get just a little bit past Washington Airport, you're outside of our stuff and you're going into Mizzou airspace, which is down in Springfield. We're trying to get that from them. This is what our scope actually looks like. Whenever we're sitting at the radar screen, this is just kind of a general view if we're on a northwest arrival flow at St. Louis. So if you are departing out of Creve Coeur or out of downtown and you're wondering why you're restricted for certain altitudes, consider what Lambert is landing. That'll give you a general hint as to why you're being kept down low. Low altitude right here under Creve Coeur only owns up to 3,000 feet. They own 3,500 in the VFR strata, but that puts you in the Bravo. The other problem is this is a giant transition corridor coming into Spirit from the northeast. So anybody that's coming in, if you have the stars and you're looking at the Bud arrival, that comes right over that Cardinal DME. So anybody coming in there is going to be in the way. We have to keep you down below those guys. This is the actual scope itself where we sit. You have the giant IDS, or information display system. This is kind of our big brain that we get to look at. Anything that you're asking us information about is probably stored in there. We've got everything from 3-letter identifiers for airports to contractions for your aircraft call signs to approach plates, weather information, you name it, it's probably up there. So if you are going to fly into Washington, and we have this all the time, if you fly into Washington Airport out here and you want to do a practice approach to a new RNAV procedure, and you want to start at X fix, as soon as you say, I would like to do the RNAV 33 into Washington starting at, and you name that fix, I'm immediately going to that screen and trying to find it on the approach plate so that I don't sound stupid when I ask you where it is. So you'll get a direct to it while I'm trying to find it at the same time. Under that, we just have a volume. It's kind of hard to see on this one, but we do have the ability to put this in a loudspeaker. Another thing is if you've got a funny voice, or if you're saying something funny, then we're going to put it in the loudspeaker so the guy next to you hears it too. This is our telephone system. It's called a TEDS. It's our interphone contact system. We can push a button and be talking directly to somebody next to us down the line or at another facility. We can call any facility in the country from here. We don't generally. They've got their own stuff to do. But we can call facilities, we can call positions, we can call on the phone, and we do have a prank line on there that we can actually call the supervisor phone from that, and then as soon as they get up to go answer the phone, we hang up. Keyboard, this is an old school keyboard. This is from the 1970s, because when the controllers that worked in the 1980s, when this system, which is called STARS, that's our radar system, was developed, they asked the controllers back then, okay, you have a choice on this new system. Do you want to use this old square keyboard that you've been using where all the letters are A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I in a line? Or do you want to switch to what the centers use, which is a QWERTY keyboard like you use in every computer in every other system in the world? And of course they said, we're not going to change what we're doing. We're going to stick with the old school method. So for the next 30 years, this is going to be our little keyboard that we have to get stuck with using. There's a little mouse that goes with it that we can scroll around the screen and click on your targets, and I'll show you what it looks like when we click on your targets in a second there. There's different settings that we can use to control brightness, intensity, weather, all this kind of stuff. Whatever we want to show up on the screen comes up from these buttons. The display itself is a 22-inch radar that we're sitting about 2 feet from. This is what you look like if you're flying around Squawking 1200. Anytime you're going VFR and you're only on 1200 code, this is what you look like to me. All I know is your altitude. That's it. The little square that's on there is just a designator that says that you are a VFR target on my scope. The little bluish circle that's around it is a primary radar return, and then the green box gives me a secondary radar with your mode C information. So whatever your altitude is reading out, that's what I'm getting. So whenever we ask you to verify you're at 2,100, that's where I'm seeing 2,100. I lop off the last 2 zeros, and that's where I get the number from. If I click on you, I can see what code you're actually on, because sometimes we'll see, instead of that little green square, it'll be a little asterisk. That means that you're on a code that is assigned to something else, and we can see what you're squawking, and we can tell that you're on the wrong code. So if you hear, hey, switch those last 2 numbers, it should be 4637, not 73. That's because I can see what we put in when you do that. Once I do give you a beacon code, especially in the local VFR system, if you've ever called up and you just want to fly around and you just want traffic advisors in the area, we generally give you a code that starts with a 02, so 02 and then 2 other numbers. Once you put that in, this is what you look like on the screen. This was one of the actual VFR guys that was flying around going to downtown airport. So we get the call sign, the little asterisk at the end. On this point, since it's not on the little square block, tells me that you are a VFR aircraft. If there's no asterisk there, it means you're IFR. The owner is in parentheses because that is who in the radar room or in the facility owns, not even just in our facility, but any other facility, who owns that radar tag. My goal is once I have you radar identified and tagged up, you say, I want to go to downtown. I flash that aircraft, and if you ever hear me say I'm waiting for a handoff, that's what I'm doing. I've put in the middle that P used to be what we used for parks. So if you're flying to downtown, I put a P, click on it, and it starts flashing at downtown's radar scope, waiting for them to click on it. Once they click on it, it goes solid. This D, which was our low altitude call sign, or low altitude radar scope, then changes to a P. So anybody that's looking at the radar in any of our facilities can see who actually owns that radar tag. There's a 3-digit, or not digit, we can use digits, but a 3-letter scratch pad that we can use whenever you ask for a certain type of approach. This is where we put that in so that we know what you're doing. There are any infinite number of combinations. If you do a medevac helicopter flight and you're flying into barns, a lot of times we'll put BJC in there, even though I know that's Jeffco's airport identifier out in Colorado. We know you're not flying a helo out there. In this instance, VFR was just a way that we know that they're only flying VFR in there. They're not asking for a practice approach of any kind. If you're out and you're just saying, hey, we want traffic advisories around the Forest LVOR for some air work, we'll put JFA in there because you're just flying around the area and we want to keep track of that. The aircraft type at the end, if we ask you what is your aircraft type, please give me the 4-character identifier for what your aircraft is. We planned that one. If you tell me you're a Dakota, I'm probably not going to put P-28A or B, whatever you have. Just tell me what the 4 characters are for that identifier. I don't necessarily know. If you tell me you're a Cherokee 180, you're going in as a PA-28. That's how it just goes. When you look at our radar screen, that one line on the bottom, every second switches over to show your altitude and your speed. Speed on these are measured in your ground speed. So I don't know what you're actually showing in the cockpit, so you'll often hear us ask you, what is your airspeed or what's your indicated airspeed? We're trying to figure out what the wind is doing to you so we know what kind of headings to give you for turns and everything. So we only get ground speed. This is what we can see whenever you ask us, is our ADSB working? Generally, if you just look at your radar tag, we see nothing. I can type in something or I can do a display function and I can look at this. What we see that's added on extra is this third line right there. Whatever call sign or whatever gibberish you put into your ADSB, is it in or out? I don't know which one it is, to display on the other scope or other radar screens and other ADSB units. That's what we see. If you're the one that flies around the downtown airport area and you have VFR listed in your call sign area, please change that. There's somebody, and I don't know who it is, so I can't call you out in here specifically, but somebody has VFR. We know a lot of the call signs from doing this a whole lot and talking to the same people in flight schools over and over. So if we see call signs, a lot of times we can give traffic and tell you what kind of aircraft to be looking for. I know what all the Billikens at downtown airport are. I know by their call sign if you're looking at a Cherokee or a Diamond or whatever. But if it just says VFR, I don't know what you are, but I'm still going to call traffic on it. And then we see at the very bottom, the hex code that goes with your ADSB registration. So if I needed to, I can look it up and figure out who you are. Flight planning. If you decide to fly IFR, this is what your flight plan looks like to us. We get one of these 30 minutes prior to your proposed departure time. If you're only in this for VFR stuff and you're not interested, you won't see any of this. But if you're flying IFR or once you're doing your IFR training or anything else and you file an IFR flight plan, this is what we see. We get one of these strips that has your call sign, the beacon code that the computer assigns to you, the fix, which is generally the airport that you're departing, or if you're coming inbound to an airport, we'll see what airspace fix you're coming over closest to us. The route of flight, in this case, somebody wanted to fly direct to Nashville. A computer ID, which is just a random 3-digit code that is generated by the center computer. You don't have any idea what that is, so when it's 666, we're not telling. Your aircraft type and equipment suffix. Should you file or ask for a VFR flight following, whenever we put in your information, it always defaults to either a slant Golf or a slant Lima, typically a slant Golf. So if you have something different and you want it updated to show that, please let us know. It defaults in the system to a slant Golf. We don't change that. Final altitude, this one we talked before, it always takes off the last 2 zeros, so 9,000 feet for the requested altitude. A little secret, if you want to fly above 10,000 feet, there's your secret, file at 9. Because once you file at 10, you get a PDR or a preferred departure route. We don't control that. The center automatically assigns these based on where you're going and where your flight is going to end up. In this instance, it knows that departing Spirit going to Nashville flies straight through the arrivals into St. Louis on the Bush arrival that come basically over from Cape Girardeau. So it files you on a flight plan that goes east of that. So if you want higher, file lower, and then when you get to the center, ask for higher, and you get it, and you can keep going direct that way. When we look at weather and you want to know what is up ahead, this is what we see. We cannot see buildups. We cannot see what type of precipitation, anything like that. All we see is levels of precipitation. This is a simulated piece off of one of our radar labs. So this is not a real life incident because we would not do this to this poor Lindbergh flight. But Lindbergh 1284 is departing straight into extreme precipitation. Anything that's yellow colored, it's kind of a faint yellow on our screen usually, with dots on it is extreme precipitation. We do not want you to fly into that, and I know you don't want to either. You get a little bit, just the regular yellow color, that's just standard heavy precipitation that we also try to keep you away from. This is what we're kind of okay with. If you don't like moderate precipitation, if you see something ahead, tell me, because I can only tell you what the precipitation is. I don't know what your buildups are or where the clouds are building up around you. I only know if it's actually dropping anything out of it. I also don't know what it's dropping. It could be ice pellets, it could be rain, it could be whatever, chaff. But all we know is there's something coming out of the cloud that the radar sees. Ours is updated every couple of seconds, every time that ASR radar spins, so we know what is actually coming at you and where it is, instead of having whatever system you might have on the plane. Ours is updated more frequently, and we can see 360 degrees. If you have an emergency, this is something that we try to just hit on, what you need to know and what I need to know. You're panicking, I'm probably panicking, my supervisor's panicking, we've got a lot of paperwork that's got to be done if you say the word emergency in any sense. We have to file paperwork that goes down to Fort Worth. You're not in trouble, we just have to do it to log something that happened. But what do I need to know versus what I want to know? I need to know the three basic components in an emergency. If you have an emergency of any kind, I need to know, of course, your aircraft name or the aircraft ID, whatever your call sign is, which I probably already know. I need to know the nature of your emergency and what are your intentions. That's it. Once you get past that, I will ask for more information if we have a chance. If you're panicking and you've lost an engine or you've lost electrical, whatever, I can't help in that regard, and I'm not going to ask you anything else. But if I can, I'm going to ask you how many souls are on board and how much fuel is remaining, preferably in pounds if you have it. That is for search and rescue information or for the firefighters that are going to be at the airport to know how big the fireball is going to be. Who declares the emergency? You can, we can, or whoever owns the aircraft can. So if you're flying one of the St. Louis Aviators planes and you have an emergency and they know about it, they can call and declare an emergency for you. We can also declare one. If you sound like you're in distress, or if you say that we've got a feathered engine, if you've got something that's wrong, that is not normal, apart from, my door popped open, I need to go back and shut it. Okay, that's different. But if you've got fuel leaks, oil leaks, whatever, we can declare the emergency for you. You don't have to do that. What do you expect? We're going to do a lot of the prep work for you. You just aviate, navigate, and if you can, communicate. I want you to be safe and get on the air, you're in the air. I want you to get on the ground as soon as you can and as safely as you can. We will coordinate with emergency personnel and we'll do as much as we can to get whatever services we need. Medical emergency, we'll call the ambulances. You have a engine emergency, we're going to call the fire department as a precaution. They're going to come out there. That's just what to expect. So, the big thing for us, on your first call to approach, if you have not done that before, or if you have and you're a little rusty on it, what should you say? If you're out of the blue, or if you even just departed an airport, please tell me your call sign and what airport you departed, if you departed one. If you're calling out of the blue, it helps to tell me where you're located. Cessna 1234, we're 4 miles east of the Forest LVOR at 1,800 with request. Cool. I've got a lot of the information that I need out of that. Don't ident when you start talking to me, because as I said towards the beginning, we have a whole bunch of frequencies that we're listening to. Low altitude has, I think, 14 frequencies at any given time that they're listening to and talking on. And if you just start identing, I may have just asked somebody on a different frequency to ident, and now I'm going to have to ask them to do it again just to get a radar identification out of them. Wait until I ask you to do that. Your current altitude, tell me on initial contact if you have a chance. That helps me because then I don't have to play 20 questions with you and ask you what is your altitude or verify that you are at X altitude. Flight following requests, There is an order of information. If you would like to help us, it would be grand. The way that we have to type in the information on the computer, we start with what airport you departed from. If you don't want to tell us, okay, it'll default to Cardinal VOR as the departure point. But if you will tell us, it gives us a way to put a starting and ending point on there. So where you started from, where you're going to, then we need to know your, I'm trying to remember the order myself. So your call sign, where you're from, where you're going, what altitude you want to go at, and what your, why am I forgetting that? I do this every day. What did you say? No, I can't do the equipment on this one. But you would say like Cessna 123, departed Spirit with a flight following request. I'll come back to you as soon as I have a chance to. I've already started typing in your call sign and where you departed from. Then I need to know where you're going. I need to know your altitude, en route, and your aircraft type. Once I put those in, I hit enter. It generates a call or a beacon code in the center computer that it'll kick back to me. If you use the word kilo, it throws us off. Unless you're going to Kilo 15 in Osage Beach or one of the other Kilo 2 number identifier airports, please do not start your airport identifier with a kilo, because I will start typing it, because I'm typing as you talk. So if you say that we're going to Kilo Charlie Oscar uniform, I've already typed the K in there, and before my brain processes that I've got a kilo in there, our computer won't process that, and it says that that's an invalid fix. So we can only do the 3-letter identifier of the airport. So please only give me the 3 letters. There are 2 methods that people use on this. A lot of people, when you first call up, will just ask, you'll say the call sign, they will give you a 4-digit beacon code that's a 0200 something code. Then once you've got that, then you say we'd like flight follow to such and such. Then they have to put in all of that other information one piece at a time, hit one button, and then it gives you that center code. You're going to have to change your beacon code again. There's no way for us to standardize it because it's a preference thing as to which way it's done. My preference and the way I try to teach people is give it to us all in that one format. Just say you have a flight following request. Some people are still going to give you that 0200 code and we can't stop them, but they've done it for 20 years that way and they're not going to change. If you have a practice approach request, you could say that Cessna 123 departed Spirit would like practice approaches at Spirit, starting with ILS 26 left. And we have Kilo. Whatever your ATIS is, please tell me it if you have it already. If you don't, I do have to verify that you have the correct one. It's a requirement in our book, sorry. Traffic in sight, this is a big one for us. Telling us that you have people on the fish finder or that you have them in the box does nothing for me. It's great, I'm glad you have a glass cockpit, but I don't. I need your glass eyes to see that out the glass window that you see the other glass airplane sitting down there. If you don't see it in sight, my requirement is that I have to keep calling the traffic until you see it. Some are a little more stringent than others on that. There is an interpretation of it that says that any aircraft that is an unverified altitude, we have to call traffic on. We have 1 or 2 at our facility that if you're at 6,000 feet and there's a helicopter buzzing around at 1,000, he's going to call the traffic on that helicopter until you look down and say, I have him in sight, because it's unverified. It happened. Ifr cancellation, if you are flying IFR into an uncontrolled airport, controlled airports are different because you don't have to do anything, they cancel when you land. If you fly into an uncontrolled airport like here, and you're flying IFR, particularly on one of those crappy weather days, cancel as soon as you practically can. I typically have multiple airplanes trying to come in at once. Maybe not to Creve Coeur, but a lot of the uncontrolleds we do. And until you cancel your IFR, I cannot let another airplane that's IFR land there. If they cancel their own IFR and go VFR, okay, they're going to land. But if you have not canceled, I can't let another plane land that's IFR. I will be calling the airport and trying to see if they can drive around and find you to make sure that you did not land short or that you're not somewhere in the Missouri River floating down towards the casino. I need to know that you landed. This airport is a little bit harder at times because generally you come in on 126.5 on your frequency. When you land, there are certain parts of the airport that are a dead space where that frequency does not work. Some of the taxiways it does, but I know I can't remember which point it is on which end of the runway, but whenever you pass a certain point, we go kind of silent on you and we can't hear you. You can call us, our number's in the AFD, I can give you the phone number if you would like it, 890-1017, that calls us, and you can cancel that way, but the quicker you can cancel IFR, the better for us. Frequency changes, please acknowledge them, don't just disappear whenever I give you a frequency change. If I tell you contact Spirit Tower 2475, I don't hear anything back, I'm gonna keep saying it, and then I'm gonna call Spirit and ask if they came over to you. That's gonna take a lot of my time, but I'd much rather be looking at somebody else and talking to somebody else's airplane. So please do that as soon as you can. And in addition to the frequency change, one that we wanted to hit on is if you are flying to the southeast or coming back from the southeast and you were flight following with the center, if you come anywhere near Scott Air Force Base and Sparta, that kind of area, you're going to get put on 125.2 for our low altitude frequency. If you are on that frequency and all of a sudden, it always makes me think of Gladiator when he's given the speech and he says, if you find yourself walking alone in a field and you see wheat or whatever, you're in Elysium and you're already dead. Well, to us, you are kind of dead because we can't hear you anymore. Once you get past downtown, come into Spirit or Creve Coeur, that transmitter is based at Scott and only sees up to a certain altitude or below a certain altitude. So we can't see you if you're descending, and we can't even see you. We can't hear you anymore. So we'll have to hail another aircraft on that to get on your frequency on 25.2 and try to get a hold of you. If you don't hear us and you're on 25.2, switch to 26.5. Just remember that one, the Spirit and Creve Coeur frequency. Move over to that one and just say, hey, I was on 25.2 and I couldn't hear you anymore. That was our fault because we didn't switch you. It's not your fault. Transitioning over Lambert, I thought I put the map on there, maybe I didn't. There it is. If you need to go over the top of St. Louis and you want to go up to the northeast towards Litchfield or something, especially departing out of here, we do not have an official procedure to land or depart Creve Coeur and go over the top. We combine it into what we do with Spirit. So with Spirit, if you depart from here and you want to go up to Alton and you don't want to go all the way around the Bravo Horn, especially on 30s when there's departures, or 12s, you're going right under the arrivals into St. Louis. If you would like to just make a little shortcut and go right across the top of St. Louis, you need to be able to climb to 3,500 VFR. That's the minimum because missed approaches at St. Louis climb to 3,000. So we have to be at 3,500 before we get to this little dotted line ring that goes around Lambert. If you can get up to 3,500 safely and you want to do that, we can take you across the top, get you over the airspace through the Bravo quicker that way. It's easy, it works for us. Once you cross over the top, we have a prearranged heading with Lambert of a 030 off of the Cardinal DME. If you want to go over the top, have your GPS ready or pre-programmed for CSX to go over the Cardinal DME. That's just how we're going to probably transition you. I like to use headings because if you're just departing here, I don't expect you to be able to punch something in that quick. Maybe you can, I don't know. I'm not a pilot. Expect a 030 heading out of there because that protects for those missed approaches, both propeller and jet types off of Lambert. If you're coming in from the northeast and you want to land, this one's the one that's a little bit tricky because we have a prearranged procedure with Lambert for Spirit arrivals. We can go anywhere from that Cardinal DME to a 230 heading to a 210 without talking to Lambert Tower. We just have a little thing that we flash to them that says, hey, I'm going to be descending in this area. But because Creve Coeur is right there on our map and not over here, you are just outside that Bravo area. The propeller departures off of Spirit come pretty much straight at this airport. So we can't just drop you down, descend you, and then, all right, off you go. I have to ask them if they have any departures that are going to affect you. Where are you guys?
Spirit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same thing. Spirit, yeah. So whenever you come over the top, we can give you a 210 to a 230 heading without talking to the tower. Expect that going into Spirit or even to here. If we've got VFR, or if you are VFR at 3,500, then you can expect to come down on the other side of Cardinal, and that's where you get to descend. I think that's all I had. That's a lot. We'll do questions at the end. Sure.
Hi guys, my name is Rick Walensky. I'm an air traffic controller from the St. Louis Downtown Airport. Just to give you a little heads up on my air traffic experience, I've been a controller for about 30 years now. Been at the downtown airport for about 12. Before that, I was up in Champaign approach control. So I was approach controller doing stuff what training was for about 6 years. Before that, I got my foot in the door through the FAA through flight service. So I was over at Columbia Flight Service. Did a bunch of contract controlling down in St. Croix, Columbia, Bridgeport, Connecticut. So I've been to many contract towers. And then I was in the Air Force for 6 years. I was over at Whiteman Air Force Base for about 3 years as well with the Stealth Bomber program. I've been to Oshkosh twice as an air traffic controller. I was a pink shirt, and I'm heading back up there in July. So hopefully I'll see somebody up there. If you recognize me, wave at me, or say, hey, you buddy, I remember you. So anyways, I'm going to talk a little bit about the downtown airport. I don't have any slide presentations, but I just wanted to get to the gist of what we wanted to convey to the general public, general flying public. Of course, at our tower, we have 10 controllers, and we have 3 main positions: the tower controller, the ground control position, and then the flight data position, which is more like a secretarial position. Usually we have 2 to 3 controllers up in the tower at any given time. So we've got a lot of new people coming in and out, so we're pretty much a training facility and a rotating board. As you guys know, the St. Louis Downtown Airport, the Class Delta surface area, is a surface of 2,900 feet and 4 nautical mile radius. What's unique about our airspace is, of course, we have the arch in our airspace, right? Everybody wants to go and see the St. Louis Arch, correct? So, everybody asking for the arch tours. There is no such thing as an arch tour. Just want to give you a heads up on that. If you denote an arch tour, that denotes, stuff with like FSDO, like there's a point A and a point B to, point A to enter and then a point B to exit. With us, that isn't the case. So, generally, we ask that you guys just call up and say transition, but if you do say arch tour, we'll understand what you're talking about, but what you're going to hear from us is transition approved, because we really can't, we can't say arch tour, technically. So you're going to hear transition approved. And if you need to see something, or want to see a particular thing, like maybe, overfly something or whatever, the Botanical Gardens or whatever it is or something, just let us know and we'll assist you with it. Also, that leads me into the next thing that I wanted to touch bases with. Now it's baseball season, so with the Cardinals, you have the temporary flight restrictions, or the TFRs, which is surface to 3,000 feet, 3 nautical mile radius. Now, misconception with some pilots is, oh my God, there's a TFR, there's a stadium TFR, I can't fly through it. That's not the case. As long as you're squawking and talking with air traffic control, whether it be approach control or the downtown airport, you can fly through the TFR. I wouldn't suggest flying directly over the stadium, because there may be a FSDO guy like in the audience or something like that, and he may see it and be like, what's going on? But the general thing of it is no circling, loitering, or maneuvering over the stadium. So anything that could be construed like you're trying to scope it out or something suspicious like that. But if you want to take an arch tour, I'm saying arch tour, right? Gotta be safe, right? So anyways, if you did want to take a look at the arch, and the ball game's going on, just be sure you're talking to approach control, and they'll coordinate with us for a transition for you guys, or we'll talk to you directly and maybe give you a spot code, or depending upon the situation, get you through it as well too. So, how many of you guys have flown into the downtown airport? Okay, so a lot of you guys. So you know that you've flown through into our Delta airspace, come to our place. you know, that SLU University flies the Billikens, and that's a big part of our aviation department there. We have a lot of helicopters there as well. We have the helicopter flying lessons there as well. But the Billikens are our main bread and butter. So they do a lot of practice approaches and a lot of pattern work. And what we'd ask for you guys, if you guys want to come in and do practice approaches, either with approach control or VFR practice approaches with us, is go with the flow. If we're on 12s, you know, we only got the one ILS to 30 left. We'd ask that you kind of like take into consideration what you hear on the radio. If you hear a lot of Billikens or a lot of traffic going on, one to right, one to left, it's probably not going to happen that you're going to get an ILS opposite direction when your 3s are left. And vice versa with the GPSs, the 12 or 30s or whatever the case may be, or the crossing runway for 523. So we'd ask that you just kind of listen up on the frequency, and you know, we'll try and bend over backwards to get whatever you need, but it may not happen due to the amount of traffic. Like today, I left the facility and there was already like a 500 or 600 count on the VFR clicker, you know, for the day. So it's been pretty crazy out there today. So. Also, Jeremy was talking about VFR flight following. If you're on the ground at downtown airport, you can make a request with the ground controller to put in VFR flight following to a certain destination, whether it's within the Bravo airspace or it's outside. We can actually do that information from us, from the ground control position, and then we'll actually hand off to the approach control. And what that actually does, it actually makes the approach controller's job a lot easier because we're getting it all set up on the ground. So don't be afraid to ask. And that's what I would also say too is, when in doubt, you know, runway crossings, you know, I know a lot of you guys are here at the uncontrolled field and sometimes you don't feel comfortable going into a controlled field, or, you know, maybe your students or something like that. Just be sure and ask, you know, a runway crossing or, you know, a turn to the right or turn to the left and stuff, you know, just verify, you know, so. Also, around the Troy VOR, we have what we call the North Practice Area. That's pretty much an area that they do air work with the approach control. And we'd ask that you either call approach, or if you're on the ground at downtown, we can get you a squawk code, and then you go VFR flight following with approach, and that way they can keep tabs on you when you're doing air work with the Troy VOR, because, you know, sometimes you guys go up there and you're VFR flying around, and then, you know, Scott Air Force Base has got their guys out and stuff, and there's been a lot of times where, you know, one of our Billikens or something, you know, is flying around VFR, not talking to anybody, and then they're getting a face full of KC-135 coming into Scott. So, you know, make our jobs easier, you know, and safer for you guys as well. So yeah, when in doubt, call approach or ask us, you know. So, let's see here. Okay, drone activity. So there's been a lot more drone activity, as you guys can tell. At the downtown airport, our directive is anything at or above 400 feet AGL, we're going to start putting it on the ATIS. So you may hear that. And of course, we've got all of downtown. You know, a lot of people are starting to do drones, you know, down the river, in front of the arch, you know, by the stadium or whatever. So you may be hearing a lot more advisories on the ATIS of like where the drone is, maybe off the CPS 270 at 5 DME within a 3 nautical mile radius at or below 700 feet AGL or something. Just an example to just make it up out of my head. So, but you'll probably be, you know, asking, or you'll probably be hearing more about that. We also ask that if you see something, speak up, you know, report it, because then we have to do paperwork too, and we have to go to the higher ups and say, hey, unauthorized drone activity at such and such and such and such. So we really need to know about that, and especially if there is like a zone that they're supposed to be in and they're higher or something like that. We have phone numbers and contacts to call people and stuff. So let's see here, ADSB. So this is a great tool for you guys to know where everybody is, you know, that has ADSB and is, you know, showing their beacon code and such. We'd ask that you please follow our guidance, our control instructions and stuff, because sometimes you may see somebody in front of you on the ADSB, and we may have like a different sequence to follow somebody else or something, or there may be a bigger picture. and you see somebody on your ADSB and it goes, no, I got that guy right in front of me on site and stuff. I was like, no, I'm gonna have you come around this way and follow this guy over here. So we'd ask that, work with us if you have a question with a control instruction or something that doesn't sound really too off, or you're seeing your ADSB. Not saying don't trust your instruments, but listen to our instructions and because we have the bigger picture from the ground up. So that's all as I got for right now. So.
Sometimes we may not get all of it because we might be doing something else up there at the time, or coordinating something with Jeremy, other things like that. So, but if you give us all of that, then that gives us something more to go on. So instead of just peeing up and saying your call sign, if it's versus you who just said your call sign, or someone else who gave me all of that information, I heard more things and may not catch your call sign. But at least I heard you want to go westbound, or I'll pick something out, and then I'll say, okay, aircraft wanting to go westbound, say again. Now, they got in before you, okay? So that's my recommendation on that. So just listen to the frequency, and if we're busy and stuff, like, find a good time to say all of your stuff. If it's really super busy, saying your call sign, okay, that's fine. Like, I won't be mad at you for that. Okay, emergencies. So at Spirit, we don't have a dedicated emergency vehicles and stuff. So if you need the equipment called out, we call it the equipment. We're calling the fire department, Fletcher County Fire, and we have a radio that goes directly to their dispatch in the tower cab. So we'll call an alert 1, 2, or 3. We'll tell them where to show up, what runway we want them to be at, waiting for you. Just know that they're off the field, so it's going to take, depending on where they are at the time, they might have to come from somewhere else in the city, so it can take up to like 15-20 minutes before they even arrive. All right, let's see. If you lose your radio, you're having problems with communicating with us, you can always call the tower. So if you need the number, I have that for you, okay? All right, so let's go on to some of my slides for you guys. All right, so this is what our radar screen looks like. And, all right, so this is our arrival list. He's IFR, so we know he's 19 miles out, so I know to start expecting him to be coming inbound. That's something I know, so if you're VFR, I'm kind of getting an idea. He's coming on off the 168 radio, so I know, like, okay, I know where to look for him. He's going to be somewhere down in here, coming inbound, and he's 19 miles out, so he's not on my screen yet. At Spirit, we're looking about 20 miles out. Each ring here is 5 miles, so 5, 10, 15, is that right? Yeah, 5, 10, 15 miles, 15 to 20 miles, we're kind of looking, depending on where you're looking on the radar. All right, so here's Creve Coeur. This is Lambert. Sparks is down here somewhere. And then this is Washington, and then Forestville. And then these are like other markers, like hospitals. And this is Six Flags, and then this is Labby Staffs. So everyone who's like here and here and here and here, they're always over Labby, right? Okay. Over Labby is here. If you're like on 5 north of Labby, okay, there you are, right? Roughly speaking. Okay. Okay. Let's see what else. You can do it, right? Okay. Go back one. Sorry. Okay. So like Jeremy said, so these are BFR targets, so that's like what we're seeing, okay? And then this is like, they're talking with approach, and they're coming, you know, we don't have anything to do with that, so. Okay, now you can go. All right, if I push a button, so the previous screen, you can see, that's what you see, what you look like when I just look at the screen, and I'm not touching it, doing anything to the keyboard, you look BFR, okay? But if I press a certain button, then it will come up with your call sign. And then this is your spot code 1200. Seeing this one's the IFR, they're spotting 3111. Then they're at 8,000 feet. And this gives me, 1,300, 2,400. See? Okay. Oh, and this right here, if we do put in a VFR flight plan for you, that's kind of what it looks like. Ours isn't as entailed as Jeremy's situation, but at Spirit, I'm probably going to tell you that local control, tower, we call it local control. Tower will give you a frequency change to St. Louis approach. The frequency is 126.5. It's just not something that we do. It's happening more so now with the newer guys that are giving VFR flight plans, starting them for Jeremy, but we're kind of like not fully into that, so I don't know. We'll see how that goes. It's not that you won't get it, but at least we'll take your request and then we'll give you frequency changes as soon as we can, so you can talk to Jeremy. Okay. All right. So this is an IFR, and like he said, who owns that tag? So it's a one that's a Spirit. So I have taken the handoff. They come in, they'll be flashing. And when I accept it to say I'll take control of this aircraft, then it will stop flashing and turn solid, and it type changes to a 1, and then I own it and I wait to talk to the person. All right. Let's see here. I guess there's not much to say about it. Okay, you can see. All right, this is the day that's raining recently, like last week or week before or something. So this is what we'll see for our rain. It's not super as fancy as Jeremy's, but I mean, it's still we have color and stuff, but that's kind of what ours looks like. Here I pulled up, this line here is the Missouri River, and then these are the highways, the dash lines here. So you got 70 and then 40, 64, and all of that. One thing I want to say through here, you depart Creve Coeur, and you're saying, I want to see if I can get through here and not talk to anybody. And then you come along, and then you do like someone did. I was working tower, and this aircraft, I see him coming, right? I see him here, and here he comes, and he's getting lower and lower and lower, following the river, and then he disappears, and I think he's crashing into the river. Gives me a heart attack, right? I'm like, oh my gosh. But then I'm like, oh, I see him pop up a little bit on the radar here. And I'm like, oh, okay, he's okay. He's just breaking through my airspace. Don't do that. Just give us a call. We'll give you a transition. It's not a big deal. We're going to say transition approved, probably north of the river, right? Transition approved, through Spirit Class Delta service area. So please call me. Don't give me heart attacks. Okay. This is our airspace ring, so if I pull that up, that's our actual airspace to the dash line there. This is Class Bravo that we can pull up. All right, you can do the next one. All right, this is our radio system. So this button here, each like Tracon has a identifier for facilities, so he's T75. And so we call him, and we just push that button, and we're right talking to him. And he can do that the same for us. If he's calling us, and he'll come through the loudspeaker or so, and then we'll key up and talk to him. And then these are our frequencies there. Okay, this one. All right, this is what it looks like. So this is where we work. So most of us will face the south runway. So this is ground control and clearance delivery area here. So you can see we work on a strip forward management system. All right, next one. The same thing there. Okay. And then this is we call it local control, but you guys know it as tower. So ground control, clearance delivery right over here, and tower is just right next to us there. And then this is more like the keyboard that Jeremy was talking about. And they just have more strip bays for the different runways. And then we also have information displays like Jeremy has that contains information, and one there's actually 3 in the tower cab. So, and then this is an alternative wind if this one is out. We issue wind right here. It's updated every minute. The altimeter, that's where we pull that from. And if these were out from the ASOS, then this would be, we would use this as a backup. Okay, next one. All right, these are like strips coming off of Spirit if you're IFR. So just kind of what Jeremy talked about. You have the call sign, the type aircraft, the squawk code that they're going to get issued, the proposed time that they want to depart, the flight level. This, at Spirit, we mark if you're a jet or if you're a prop, like these are, then you get a south or a north turn. That's how we're issuing when you hear us say, turn left heading 210, turn right heading 310. That's what those are about. So we know right off the top of our head which way we have to turn in. Okay. All right, if you're VFR, this is what I'm doing. This is a ground control strip. So Cessna 723 Sierra Papa requests a west departure. They have information Lima. Then I'm going to taxi them to 26 right left. And then that strip goes over to the tower position. Okay. These are IFR inbound strips. So same situation. And then this is their arrival over this fixed time. And then their IFR. Okay. All right, this one I just took recently. I wanted to show you, this is what you look like when you ident. So the ID will come up. Usually you're just VFR like this, but if I say ident, then this was what comes up. So the 1200 ID and the ID part flashes like that. Also, I just want to point out that this, see how call signs get kind of like overlap and everything like that? So if there's like a lot going on and a lot of like people in the pattern, it's just sometimes, I don't know what I want to say about that exactly.
The radar is
Yeah, the radar is kind of useless. So like if I turned around to do something, to talk to somebody or look at something on the south side and I turn back to the north side to the people in the pattern, and then if I need to use trying to gauge where people are and using the radar, we're looking at it, and then I might have to be like, okay, where's everybody now? And sometimes the radar is less helpful with sorting that out. Okay. Okay, so this is just a picture overview of Spirit, and things to know. Right now we're going into taxiway alpha. They're basically fixing potholes and stuff all along taxiway alpha. It's supposed to be set for like 6 weeks. And so each portion will get like closed for a few days or whatever for them to do it, and they're staying late and doing all kinds of stuff. So if you're at Spirit and you're departing 2-6, and let's say you're parked over here on the north ramp, but you want to depart 2-6 left, you're going to come around. Then we might have to take you out onto the runway to pass the closed part and then bring you back on alpha and down. So that's what's going on right now. Okay, I think that's all I want to say about that right now. Okay, other things to talk about as far as that is, some people there wanted me to touch on, if you're departing and we say you're left downwind departure as a crew, they just mean like you're going to be making a left turn as if you were coming in on the left downwind. That's all that means. So, Okay, if you're requesting pattern work, we would prefer if you don't just say, we want pattern work. What do you want to do with the pattern is more helpful so that I can help plan and make everyone else, work together. So like touch and go, stop and go, one time around, full stop, taxi back. If you really do want the option, okay, that's fine. Short approaches, make sure you request that. And also we have a lot of helicopter operators at Spirit over on the north side a lot. We have airback helicopters, like team helicopters, they do a lot of training there. So just be vigilant with that and stuff. Let's see. All right, eventually when tours are in effect, like you can come for a tour again, line up and wait. Some people at the airport wanted me to tell you guys what line up and wait. It's like, if you're old school, right, position and hold. So it's just, we want you to go up, first of all, you line up and wait, go on the runway. Line up and wait until we tell you you're clear for takeoff. I don't know, I haven't had an issue with it very much, but, okay. Also, on course, if you're told on course to approve, like, you can really go on course, it's okay. Like, just head for where you want to go, and that's fine. All right, also we've had some issues with people saying kind of like the wrong things. Like if I'm giving an instruction, like clear for takeoff, and then they come back with affirmative. Or, like it happens more than you know. Like that's not the appropriate response. So just affirmative is yes, Roger is, I heard you. So if you're being told Roger, it's like I heard you, but then just kind of wait until we get back to you. If the time goes by, a reasonable amount of time, then you should say something again. All right, also cardinal heading versus magnetic heading. There's kind of a issue at Spirit between some controllers, so choosing to, they want to know exactly what heading you're going to be flying out on. Me, I just want to know west, south, northeast, like whatever. To me, like this is west, right? All of that and all of this, and other people want to be like, and I think it has to do with people's comfort level. I feel like my job is to watch you and make sure, that everyone is being safe and stuff. And so if I need to give you traffic, I'll let you know. But I'm not going to like control and over control what you're doing and where you're going. So I would just say, if you have your heading, like that's fine, you can offer it, or you might be asked for it. And if you really don't have it, don't like freak out. Just be like, I don't have it. It'll be fine. And then also, if you guys haven't heard, the air show is going to be coming back, so in June, and the Blue Angels will be here, so we'll be busy for that in about roughly a week or so, that the north side runway will not be operational while they get set up for preparing for that. Do I have any other? I don't think so. Okay. I think that kind of covers it, but all right. So now I guess we'll take whatever. If you guys have any questions or anything.
She mentioned that I had this map up. If you are flying and doing practice work around Forrestal or anything west of Spirit, please do not, especially if Spirit's on 8s, do not camp out right here, flying around at 2,500 to 3,000 feet. This is the final approach course into Spirit. I can't approach an airplane there if you are in the way. So if you are wanting to do air work out here, we would love it if you would call us. It looks like a guilty party, maybe. We would love for you to call us and let us know that you're going to be here and what your intentions are. We may ask you to bump up a little bit to facilitate getting somebody in underneath you if we need to.